Talk Show.
It's on.
Now.
Well, I've got a tale of woe today. Good evening. It's Tony Motoroy on xjtalk.com, and this is the show about Jeep Cherokees, although tonight it's going to be about Mustangs. Mustangs from hell. Jeep Cherokee, xjtalk.com show. Yep, had to work on the Mustang today. Wasn't a good experience. I don't like working on vehicles to start with. It's dirty, it's sweaty, and it's hot. You know, it's June. If it's not summer, it should be. Like 94 degrees today. God, it was hot. Anyway, I'll be complaining and whining about the Mustang here in just a minute.
xjtalk.com.
xjtalk.com.
It's where you go when you're not off-road.
Well, guys, as you heard me saying in the intro, I had a little Mustang problem today. I was quite happily sitting in the air conditioning at work when I got a semi-panicked phone call from my wife. She said she was going down Interstate 10, going to her parents' house, and luckily our two girls were with her. I say luckily because anytime you want your wife to break down, you want your kids to be with her. But anyway, she had some company. It wasn't a serious deal as far as like a wreck or something. She was just driving down, and she's been hearing this noise, kind of a rattling noise and a loss of power, but she could never get it to duplicate while I was around, or while I was driving it, or whatever. It would not act up. So I had no idea that she was going over to her parents' house today, so I was a little surprised to hear she was on I-10. And basically, same thing. It started making a rattling noise, loss of power, and she tried to exit the freeway and wasn't quite able to get off the freeway, so she was on the feeder. And in Houston, we have a safe clear program. So basically, that means that if you break down, a safe clear tow truck will be around to tow you off the freeway and to a gas station. Basically, get the vehicle off the side of the freeway so people don't gawk at it and slow the traffic down. It's a pretty good idea overall, but unfortunately, there's a very narrow range of things that you can be towed for free. Otherwise, you have to pay like $140 for a tow of about two football field lengths. So I quickly contacted a local garage / wrecker service and asked them if they did just wrecker service, because I wasn't interested in floating 5 loans to pay for. Dalton just joined in the chat room. I was just reading what he was saying. Yeah, no problem, Dalton. If you, he says, "Hey, I'm here. I don't know how long though." Yeah, no problem, Dalton. If you can stick around, great. If not, no problem. I'm just going to be whining tonight mainly. So anyway, I was able to contact this local wrecker company, and it was like $95 for them to drive out to where she had broken down and tow the Mustang back to the house. And I found out from the last time we had an issue with the Mustang where it had to be towed that our insurance company will cover. We have towing on our coverage, so it'll cover up to like $120 for the tow. So it's not going to really be a out of pocket expense. So anyway, they're on the side of the freeway, and I'm concerned, even though I'm about an hour away from home and about that from where they were. I thought I better, my wife sounded a little panicked, and my girls were with her, and I was a little concerned about them getting home and stuff. Okay. So, the work is pretty good about, if you have something that comes up, you just let them know that there's an issue and you need to take care of it. I'm a contractor at the company, so I don't want to do the same as what the employees do, irregardless of how you're treated and what you see. You know, if you're a contractor, you're not the same as an employee, although they're very good to us there and treat us just the same way as they do the actual employees. So I spoke with somebody, and they felt that it was reasonable, and so I took off and headed home. I managed to get home about the same time they got towed to the house, so everything was good, and I decided that I would go ahead and take a quick look at the Mustang to see if I could figure out the issue. So, you know, when it died on her, she tried starting it, of course, and it wouldn't start. It would act like it wanted to start, and it wouldn't start, and it would shake pretty bad. So, very confusing. My immediate thought was, on my way home anyway, I was thinking fuel filter. You know, it's got a clogged fuel filter. It's a 96 Mustang, and it probably has never had the fuel filter changed. So I thought about going by the auto parts. So I actually called the auto parts and found out fuel filters are very, very cheap, and not. And I actually double checked to make sure they weren't located inside the fuel tank like they are on the 97 plus Jeep Cherokees. Thankfully, no, they're just out right there where you can get to them. And so I was driving home, and I thought, well, you know, I can go by there and get that, but that might not be the problem. It might be a better idea if I stick the scanner, because it really acted like, from what she was telling me, it acted like a sensor was acting up, like it maybe had a sensor going bad, or you know, there was some problem with a sensor where it wasn't reading correctly, and it was acting up and causing the computer not to know what to do, like maybe something similar to the crank position sensor or something, you know, I don't know, Ford related type stuff. So I thought, you know, I'll go home and put the OBD2 scanner on it and just see what it says. Well, I was able to start it. It started and it ran fine. It did seem to have a little bit of a miss to it, but a very mild miss. So I hooked up the OBD2. I've got a little Bluetooth box that hooks into the OBD2 port. And then I have a laptop with some software on it and a Bluetooth so that I can communicate with the scanner. So I fired up the software on the laptop and connected to the Bluetooth unit and read the data. And it had the same error code that it's had for years now, which has to do with the evap charcoal canister being clogged, or the purge valve having a problem, or the purge flow sensor having a problem. And I had read in the past that the evap canister is actually inside the wheel well, behind the fender, in other words, where you can't get to it easily, on the passenger side of the vehicle, front fender. So I wasn't looking forward to trying to pull that thing out of there. And it hadn't been a problem before other than just showing a check engine light, which each year when it came time to get it inspected, I would just clear the codes and drive about 5 miles to the place where I would get it inspected. And the check engine light would always stay off long enough for it to get inspected. And I'd drive it back home. And then, sometimes on the way back home, the check engine light would come back on. Sometimes it was a couple days later. So it's been working out fine. My wife didn't like the check engine light, but she wasn't the one that was going to pull the fender off to get to all this stuff. Well, when I looked at the code, I thought, okay, fine. I'll see what I can do as far as getting the part that I need to fix this. I mean, it's the only code that's showing. It's the same code that's been showing. Maybe whatever the problem was, the moderate problem it had to show the check engine light, maybe it had gotten severe enough. And again, it just really felt like a sensor problem. So I called O'Reilly's, and they said, they wouldn't say that's a dealer item. They wouldn't say, out of the 3 pieces to that puzzle, I got a P1440, 1433, 1433, I think it was. And there's 3 pieces that can be bad. Actually 4, but 3 actual parts that can be bad, that's associated with that code. So I asked him about the evap canister. Yeah, we got one, or we can get one, $120. Okay, fine. How about the purge valve? Yeah, we can get one of those, and I think it was like $70 or something. And I said, how about the purge flow sensor? No, it doesn't have one. I said, yeah, it does. I'm looking at this Mustang forum, and they're talking about the purge flow. Is that right? Purge flow sensor. No, not on a 96 Mustang. I've had issues with O'Reilly's before where they swear up and down that the 96 doesn't have this, that, or the other. And it's like, it's something like, no, it only has 2 wheels. So I've learned to not trust exactly what I hear from the parts people. So I said, okay, fine, thanks, and I'll let you know. So I call Advanced Auto, and by this time I've actually found a Ford part number for the sensor, for the purge flow sensor. And even though I can't get the purge flow sensor, when I give them that, even though that they don't find it either. They don't find the purge flow sensor as well. And so I say, okay, fine. Here's a Ford part number. Can you look up the Ford part number? Yeah, sure. So he looks it up, and then he tells me, yeah, that's the part number for the purge valve and the evap canister. And I said, huh? I gave you one part number. Yeah, it's these 2 things. I said, wait a minute. How can I... Is it some sort of assembly or a kit or something? Because I gave you one part number and you're telling me it's 2 parts. Yeah. No, I don't understand that. I mean, I've never worked as a parts counter person or a mechanic or whatever, but in all my years' experience, if it's a part number, it's a single piece, unless it's some sort of kit. And I don't think it's a kit. It's a sensor. No, I'm not showing a sensor. Okay, screw it. I'm calling Ford, because at least in the post that I read, they said the sensor from the Ford dealership was like $30. So, and this was from a few years ago, so it couldn't be that much more expensive than what it was, from 2008 or whenever it was. So I looked up and I found a local Ford dealership about 3 miles down the road off of I-10, and I called up the parts department, and they look it up, and they said, yeah, we got it. And I didn't even give them the part number. I just told them 96 Ford Mustang, V6, blah, blah, blah. And he looked it up, and he had it, $40 and some odd cents. More than what I really wanted to spend, but, okay, as far as sensors go, that's not so bad. So I drove over there and picked it up. Got back home, and actually while I was there, I said, yeah, I heard that this thing is actually behind the fender on the passenger side front fender. He goes, yeah. And I said, you wouldn't happen to have a picture or something? He goes, yeah, I do. I'll pull that up. And I expected him to pull it up on the screen, and I'd crane my neck around. You know, you've been at the parts places where they do this. And then you get to see, most of the time, not a great picture, but he pulls it up, and then he walks over to the printer because he printed it for me. And he brings it back over and hands it to me. And I said, oh, that's great. It's printed. I can take this with me. I can look at it as I need it. And he even pointed out on the diagram where it was, the part that I was buying. And I said, I was looking at it, and I said, well, that's not behind the fender. And he looks at it, and he kind of, I said, well, that's the firewall. That's right there next to the firewall, right behind the engine. And not even really behind the engine, you know, up on the firewall. He goes, yeah, you're right. And I thought, and actually I said, you know, well, that I'm doomed because I think I've seen that part, and it's very easy to get to. So that means that this, you know, according to Murphy's Law, this will not be the piece that fixes it. And he laughed. And I gave him my $40 and got back in the Jeep and drove home. So, unfortunately, the vehicle was starting. And when I got home, I tried starting it, and it started right up, like I said earlier, and it just had a slight miss to it. So I put the new part in. I cleared the code, the check engine light, and I thought, well, you know, I don't want to drive it around because I don't want it to die on me, and where I'll be stranded and have to try to, you know, get home some way. So I'll just let it sit here and idle. And of course, that's not the best way to check the error that I was getting before to see if this fixed it. So I used the time while it was sitting there idling. I actually put in on the scanner, the OBD2 scanner, to monitor RPM, coolant temperature, about 7 or 8 things. I just had it, you know, updating on the screen, and I would go over there and check it, see what, you know, see if the RPM was changing, or see if the check engine light would come back on, blah blah blah. And while I was doing that, I had my IAC part had come in, so I thought, well, I'll put this on the Jeep while I'm waiting for the Mustang to, you know, be fixed or act up. So I went and did that, and, you know, it's just side by side there in the garage. And after about 30, 40 minutes, I guess, of it just sitting there idling, and I kept checking the temp because I was a little concerned that because the electric fan was not turning on the thing right there by the radiator, and I thought it was really strange. And then I thought, well, you know, looking at the temperature from the scanner, it's only 176 degrees, so that seems kind of low. Maybe it doesn't come on until it gets up, you know, to a higher temp. So I let it go and let it go and let it go, and I kept checking the temp gauge on the dash, and it's fine. It's, you know, it's not like it has moved. It's in the middle. It's a gauge, so, and it's a factory gauge, but, you know, it's always been fine. So I'm over there working on the Jeep. I'm actually buttoning everything back up and popping the cables back on the inputs and stuff to the throttle body. And I start hearing a kind of a weird sound coming from the Mustang. And it's kind of a rattling noise, and it kind of stumbles a little bit. It's not idling cleanly. So I go, that's kind of that sounds like the noise that my wife described, although her description was more violent and louder. So I got in the Mustang and revved the engine, and it was sluggish, and it would make a rattling noise when you tried to accelerate, and I recognized the noise. It's the noise that you hear whenever your engine gets too hot. I believe it's called detonation. Whenever the air-fuel mixture is getting so hot, or it's getting so hot inside the the combustion chamber, that heat is causing the air fuel mixture to start igniting before the spark plug ignites it, or just before it fully ignites. In other words, it's kind of like a timing issue. My understanding is it's kind of like a timing issue, and much like what a diesel does. You don't need a spark plug really to to make it work. But of course, all the sensors and all the programming and stuff aren't geared towards the detonation. So anyway, and I can smell the heat coming off the engine. Whenever an engine gets hot, you can smell it. So the noise, the sluggish throttle, the smell, all indicated to me that there's an issue with it not cooling properly, and the fan, the electric fan, still is not running. And the gauge shows that it's not hot, but it does show a temperature. It's not like it's zero or all the way over to the cool. It's in the middle, like where it should be. Actually, I did notice it kind of looked like it had cooled off a little bit, which was a little disturbing. So I went and looked at the scanner, and it showed 176 degrees. And there's just no way in hell you don't get a smell like that with 176 degrees. And I figured that it was normal operating temperature is going to be closer to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So I turned it off, and I got to thinking, well, could it be a blown head? And after a little while, I took the radiator cap off and had no problem. There was no spewing or anything. I tried squeezing the top hose, and it was like empty. And I thought, well, this is really strange. I have this really dark brown color inside the coolant, and I had flushed a lot of it out, and I just figured it was some really old factory coolant, or somebody put some stuff in there, or it was rust coming from the coil in the lower spring, or I don't know where. But I had flushed a lot of that out and thought, well, what would happen if the thermostat wasn't opening? It could be that the thermostat is closed shut, and it's not letting the water circulate, and that might be affecting the sensor, the temp sensor. It might be causing the engine to overheat. So I cleaned up a little bit and jumped in the Jeep and went down to Advanced Auto and got a 195 degree thermostat, which is apparently the factory temp is 195 for the thermostat. I got a temperature sensor, which was like it's actually a sensor switch, and it was like $10. So when I found out the price, I said, yeah, give me one of those too. And I went ahead and got an air filter while I was there, and paid for it. Got back in the Jeep, and actually I complained a little bit while I was there. I was talking to a girl that seemed to be, if not knowledgeable in vehicles, she was knowledgeable on the computer as far as finding stuff. Very quick, very accurate as far as looking it up. And I thought, well, I'll just find out if she can find the flow sensor. And she couldn't. But, she listened to me complain a little bit, and she apologized. And then she said, hang on. And she ran over to another register and got me a $5 off card, some little credit card looking thing, and gave me $5 off my purchase because of the trouble I had. And I said, hey, I wasn't complaining to try to get money off. She goes, no problem. And I thought that was very nice. So if you want to get a little money off your purchase at Advanced Auto, complain a little bit. Anyway, so I got back home and pulled the thermostat housing off, and got to the thermostat, and oh my God, it looked like it had been in a rust storm. It was just covered in this brown, rusty looking stuff. And it was so strange. The inside of the intake was, at least I guess that's the intake. I need to learn a little bit more about how the Mustang engine is laid out. but that it looks like the thermostat and the thermostat housing actually attaches to the front of the intake. But the thing that surprised me is that a lot of that brown stuff was coating the inside of the intake, and it was dry. It looked like it was dry as a bone in there. And that was kind of concerning to me. In a way, I was thinking, well, maybe this has something to do with the thermostat being stuck and the water isn't flowing through there. Now, I've never really seen an intake that water flows through, but, I've never seen the inside of a Ford, what is this? It's a V6. I don't even know what size it is. So I thought, okay, whatever. I'll put the thermostat in it, and we'll see if it works. So, well, the first thing I did was I took the water hose, and this is after it had cooled off for maybe an hour. I took the water hose and stuck it in the radiator and started, pumping water in there, and it starts coming out through the intake. And I go, okay, well, there's a path. So that little hole where the thermostat goes and the thermostat housing, the water was coming out of there. So I went ahead and flushed it for a little bit to get that brown crap out of there. And the best I can describe it is rust. It actually, it's kind of a powdery thing, and it will float on top of the water. So anyway, I got the thermostat on the thermostat housing, and put the thermostat housing on there and bolted it up and put the top hose back on and put some more water in the radiator, and cranked up the engine. And I'd say that the miss was a little more pronounced than what it had been before. And and that's right, I did change the temp sensor while I was there. I figured, what the hell, either if the other one is bad, or not reading correctly, $9, $10, I'll throw the new one on there. So I cranked it up. It was missing, not horribly, but it was missing. And I went over and got the OBD2 scanner software running again on the laptop, and now the coolant temperature was reading 330 degrees. And I thought, well, that can't be right. The engine's not hot, and I just started it. I wonder if that sensor is the right sensor. And then I thought, well, if it's reading 330 degrees, that certainly ought to be enough to turn the electric fan on. So I thought, well, I'll go see if the fan's running. And sure enough, the fan was going. So it wasn't the electric fan. So, but I need to back up a second. Whenever I went to start the engine, of course, I had the hood open to the Mustang. And the opening to the radiator is on the driver's side. And I filled it up with water. So I started up, and water launches out of the radiator a good foot, a nice little stream of water. And my initial thought was, hey, that's good, because I was a little concerned about the water pump. Thought maybe maybe the water pump fins are gone, or it's bad, or I don't know. It's just strange. And then I thought, there's no way that the water should have shot out of there like that. And then I went back to my blown head concerns. So I thought, I stood there and it was running, and I thought about it a second, and I thought, well, what would happen if I give it a little gas? And, I revved it and water would come out. So I walked over there and, like I said, got the OBD2 scanner software running again, and saw the temperature, and the electric fan was running, and I stood there and you could see a bubble coming out of the radiator, the opening of the radiator. And I thought, well, and I waited a while, because anytime the system has been, I dropped the bottom hose and dumped the water out of the engine and the radiator. But so, it's always possible that the water is circulating and bubbles are going to come out. But I was still concerned about seeing that water shoot up like that. And so I thought, well, I wonder if there's any liquid coming out the tailpipe. And when I walked back there, I could hear the sputtering noise, and I could actually see it sputtering water. And I thought, well, sometimes they do that because of the catalytic converter and condensation, and so on and so forth. So I put my hand down where the water was and put it up to my face to see if I could smell. And I had put a lot of water through there, so there really wasn't any antifreeze. And it was clear water. It wasn't that rust-colored stuff that I had been seeing in the radiator. And I thought, well, this is not sitting well with me. This is really kind of disturbing. And but I'm not convinced it's a problem with the head gasket or cracked head or cracked block. So I wanted to get down closer to the exhaust and smell and see if I could. I certainly didn't want it to be fuel. That would really be bad. But I wanted to know before things got worse. So I got down to where I could smell the exhaust and hear the noise a little bit better. And then I noticed that the stream of water that I was seeing coming out from underneath the car wasn't from where I had been filling up the radiator. It was coming out of a hole in the muffler. There was a little hole towards the bottom of the muffler, and water was squirting out of there. Not constant stream, but, more than anything should be. So that's when I realized water is getting into one of the cylinders, and it's being sent down the exhaust pipe. And that's why why it's missing a little bit, and that's why it gets hot, because the water is being forced down through the exhaust and out the back, and eventually there's no water in the cooling system. The engine gets hot, and it comes to a stop because it gets hot. And I would assume that because the temperature sensor is kind of high up in that whole cooling system architecture, it's higher than the rest of it, that I would imagine when the water level drops down sufficiently, all it's doing is measuring air temperature. Now, I still don't know why it was showing 300 and something degrees. It could be that we had a head leak, a head gasket leak for some time, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. And now it's just got to the point where exhaust gases are getting in there, and that's what's heating up that sensor. And it could have even caused the other sensor to go bad. I don't know. But the thing that's interesting about it is that the oil looks perfectly fine. It's full. It's not milky. It's not light brown. It's kind of a dark black, like what you'd expect from oil that's been in the engine for a while. So I don't think there's any other conclusion when you see water coming out the exhaust at a pretty good clip, that water is getting into the cylinder, and during combustion it's being ejected out through the exhaust system. I don't hear any noise on the engine other than the miss, so I don't think that it certainly isn't hydrolocked, and I don't think that anything has been bent. But I don't see a rosy future for this Mustang. It's going to be, I think, I'm still researching it, but I believe it'd be rather expensive for even me to fix, because I would have to take the head off, have to locate which head it is, take the head off, see if it's a gasket, and then check the head to see if it's warped, and more than likely have to take it down to a machine shop and have it milled. And I don't even know if you can just do one head. It may be that both heads have to be done. There was a good running engine, and actually it still runs fine, as far as I know, with it being overheated like that multiple times over the last couple of weeks. It may have caused more problems than what I think, but I don't think the engine has a major issue. It's not like I want to go through and rebuild it or anything. I think I'd rather put a V8 in there if I was going to change it out. Seeing that Dalton has headed off, he had to go and hit the bed, so no problem there, Dalton. When you listen to this later, no problem. Thanks for dropping in for the few minutes that you were here. And Renee Argonard from xjtalk.com has joined us, and he says, just me and you, Tony, and Yeah, Rainey, just me and you. It was Dalton here a few minutes. I don't know if he was on at the same time you were, or if he had dropped off before you joined. Yeah, I figure that everybody thinks it's Tuesday, because Monday was a holiday, and because of my dedication to the xjtalk.com show, I'm here even after all this dismal news today. So anyway, back to the whining and moaning about the Mustang. So I got to thinking about it, and there's just too many unknowns on the Mustang. I could pull the head off, and hopefully it's a blown head gasket and not a cracked head. And hopefully it's if it is a cracked head, then I could get a replacement. Have to do a valve job and so on and so forth on it. I'd have to research that and see if it actually would have to be a valve job done by a shop and how much that would cost. And then the other thing I thought, the worst case, would be the block. The block is cracked. I think with after having these negative thoughts and going on and doing a little research, it seems that the head gasket blowing is a more plausible thing, but you really don't know until you pull the head off. So I got to thinking about it, and I just don't feel comfortable putting all my eggs in one basket. So I called up my wife and told her the bad news, and told her, you can't drive the Mustang. It's not going to get you down the road, or if it does, you don't know if it's going to get you back or how far down the road it's going to get you. And any damage that has occurred will just be multiplied as it's run hot and gets to a point where it can't keep going and dies. So I told her, I said, I was looking at Craigslist, and I see that they have 96, 98, 2000 Mustangs, and it's nothing that we can afford, but obviously whenever you're faced with something like this, you have to figure out a way to do things or do without. And doing without is not really a good option, because that would put us down to one vehicle, and I'm an hour away from home, and our girls have these things they go and do, and I'm not quite sure. Our oldest daughter is going to be involved in some a career development thing, and I don't know exactly when that starts. I'll know better when my wife gets back home as far as how this is going to impact her. But anyway, I got on Craigslist and checked and saw that there was Mustangs, and I would prefer not to have another Mustang, because I don't know how they are put together that well. Although with this Mustang recently, I've been learning a lot more. And then I went and looked at the Jeep Cherokees to see if I could find any Cherokees. I was actually, and I didn't want to tell my daughters about this because I didn't want to get them overly excited. What I was thinking about doing was getting a Jeep Cherokee for them to share and to drive. And then I thought, well, maybe I can go ahead and do that, and it will be for my wife to drive. So I called her, told her the bad news, and said, I see that there's Mustangs available out there, and there's also Cherokees. And I would much rather have a Cherokee, because I already know a lot about how they're put together, and I have a lot of parts for a Cherokee. And I said, she kind of goes, oh, and I said, well, would you mind driving a Cherokee instead of a Mustang? And she chuckles and she says, no. Like, that would be fine with me. So I said, okay. And then I sent her a text message with a link to one that I found on Craigslist. It's actually at a dealer, a used car dealer. And sent her a link to that one, and she looked at the pictures, and she says, gosh, that looks a lot like the one we have. It was a 99 Sport with, it's a four-wheel drive, and I think that would mean that it at least has a high pinion Dana 30. And when I spoke with a guy at the used car place, he didn't know if it had anti-lock brakes or if it was a Dana 35 or a Chrysler 8.25. So I'm going to head over there and have a look tomorrow afternoon. He said the interior's a little rough, or I should say more accurately, he said that it needed some cleaning up. And the first thing that struck my mind was flood damage, because that's what's going to show the flood damage the most is the carpet and the interior. And I asked him, I said, well, hey, I've got a 98 Cherokee. I've had it for 12, 13 years. I've done a lot of work on it. I know a lot about it. It'll just save me and you a lot of time if you just tell me, is there anything wrong with this thing? And he says, well, no, not that I know of. And I said, well, you mentioned it was kind of rough interior. He goes, yeah, it just needs to be cleaned up. And I said, well, the first thing that came to my mind was flood damage. Has it been in a flood? Has it been flooded? He says, well, I don't know. He goes, I can pull a Carfax on it if you like. And I said, well, that'd be great if you wanted to do that, because that's what I'm going to do before I buy anything. And he says, hey, no problem. So I told him, we talked a little bit longer, and I said, well, you know what? He's up North Houston, like not quite to the Beltway. And so he's not that far from the office. So I figure when I get off work tomorrow, I'll go over there and have a look at it and see if I can test drive it. So if all goes well and I don't hear, see, or smell anything on that Cherokee that I don't like, then we might be a 2 Cherokee family. And I haven't mentioned to the wife yet, but I've got all the parts needed to do another 4.5-inch lift on a Jeep Cherokee. I was going to surprise my girls by saying, hey, got this Jeep Cherokee for you guys to drive, and then put it in the lift on it. And of course, I wouldn't have the tires or the wheels or anything like that, but at least it would be lifted up higher than not. And that gives me a great opportunity that if I want to get different wheels for my Jeep, then I can just take the ones that I have and move them over to that Jeep. So I don't know. We'll see how it works out, but I'm going to go by and have a look at that one. And I think that if that works out, then what I'll do is I'll leave the Mustang in the garage and pull that head off and see if I can't fix that problem. At least at that point, my wife will have a vehicle to drive, and I'll have a vehicle to drive, and the Mustang can sit until I have time to work on it. And hopefully it will just be a blown head gasket. I'll put a straight edge on the head. It will be nice and straight, but with it being overheated like that, I kind of doubt it. And but hopefully, and I'll put another gasket on there and torque it down and start it up, and it'll drive great. And if that happens, then my wife will have the Jeep Cherokee to drive, and my girls will have the Mustang to drive. And if not, then I'll part out the Mustang or sell the thing as a whole to somebody cheap, and then they can fix it. So anyway, that's my tale of woe today, and my fun with the Mustang. So let's see. VW Full Y has joined us, and Hot Hemi. I always forget about how that's pronounced. I have to look at it and see it backwards. It's I'm E Hotho. Yeah, I don't like that. You need to change that. But it's Hot Hemi spelled backwards. Welcome, and I guess you just got here for the last part of my my complaining about the 96 Ford Mustang with the V6 engine that sprays water out of the little hole in the muffler, which is to me not a good sign. But hopefully I'll be able to buy us another Jeep Cherokee that we can't afford to buy. But what are you going to do? I guess it'd be cheaper to buy a motorcycle. But even that would be more than what we could afford. So anyway, I mentioned earlier that during while I was waiting for the Mustang to act up or run right, I replaced the IAH idle air control motor on the throttle body that came in yesterday. Put that on my Jeep, and it does not start up right away. It takes 2 starts. But I have not reset the computer. I don't know if that will have any effect, but I have not reset the computer, and I've only started it like 3 or 4 times since I replaced that part. But at last count, that means I've changed the air intake sensor. I've changed the map sensor that's on the throttle body. I've changed the TPS sensor twice. The second time it wasn't an issue with the TPS, although it acted just like that issue. But it replaced that one twice. And now I've replaced the IAC. I've also replaced the CPS, but then had to go back to the original because I found that the replacement was causing me problems with my Firewire 4.0 kit, which was beyond unusual, but it definitely was. So I put the original back on, and it's been fine. And I definitely need to replace that, but I'm going to have to go spring for a factory one, go down to the Chrysler Jeep dealership and get one. They're a little over $100, I think around 120 or so. And what else? I've changed the camshaft sensor in the distributor. I've changed the O2 sensors. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 3 on the front and once on the back. 3 times on the front, the upstream sensor, and once on the downstream sensor. So I think that's all the sensors. I don't think there's any more sensors. I think the only thing that's part of that would be the computer, the thing that reads the sensors and reacts to the sensors' data. And I haven't changed that. I don't really have any plans to change that. So, yeah, I definitely need to reset the computer, and then maybe I can see if that's going to make any difference to the start. Or I doubt that it'll affect the gas mileage at all. But I'm willing to give it a bit of a false hope. The neat thing is if we get this 1999 Cherokee, I'll be able to put the OBD2 scanner on it and see what the O2 sensor readings are at highway speeds, and I'll have a fairly close comparison to my 98. Although I know that the intake is a more smoother intake and has a little extra power on the 99. I see that VW Fool Y says he has had many Stangs. So have you ever had a Mustang that blew a head gasket? And if so, how did it manifest itself? Because I'm getting water coming out of the muffler, a little hole in the bottom of the muffler. It's squirting water out of there. Quite a bit of water, at least enough to run the cooling system dry and let the engine overheat. He says, "Oh yes," in capital letters, all capital letters. So I'm assuming that means you have had a head problem. Was it a warped head? Was it a cracked head? Was it a cracked block? Was it a blown head gasket in conjunction with a warped head? Tell me more. Give me some hope, even if it's false hope. It's a 99 Jeep Cherokee, and it's got 142,000 miles on it. If I remember correctly, I didn't get a lot of details on it as far as I believe it was a 4.0. I'm not interested in a 4-cylinder, so okay. BW Full Y says V6 heads do not like to be overheated; they will warp. Is it something that is easily fixed by milling, or if I do a compression test to find out what cylinder is the culprit that's getting water in it, and what I was thinking about was just taking off that head and just fixing that head, letting it be milled, taking it to get milled if necessary, and putting it back on. Is this something that I should go ahead and would it just be just plain stupid not to do both of them at the same time? And if I get it milled, is it going to require that I have a valve job done on it? Keep in mind, I'm not concerned about having this thing. I don't want to spend a lot of money on it. I want to try to do as least the amount of work possible, or spend the least amount of money possible, and have it get back to where it's a good daily driver. Well, the only problem with the 5.0, Hot Hemi says trash the 6 and do a 5.0. It's not my vehicle. It's going to be it's my wife's vehicle, and it may be the vehicle that my daughters drive. And to me, the 6-cylinder just makes a lot more sense for them than a 5.0. And VW Full Y says you won't know until you pull them out of 3 or 4 V6 head gaskets jobs I've done. Only one heads could be reused. They are known for cracking at the valve seat. Well, I don't know if you heard the first part of this, or if it makes any difference, but I see no water in the oil, and I don't think that I'm seeing oil in the water. So I was kind of confused, and I didn't. I was confused until I saw the water coming out of the exhaust, and then I was fairly certain that it was, going to be some head related issue. So I'm just reading here. It says they are known for cracking at the valve seat. Water is going straight into the combustion chamber. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is that typical of what you're saying as far as cracking of the valve seat? Well, I didn't. Hot Hemi says to taste it. I really don't have any. Coolant antifreeze in there, so I don't think it would taste anything but like water. Yeah, it is missing. It acts like it has one cylinder that is that's not completely firing. It's not a really bad miss, but it's noticeable. So basically the thing that I should consider is not really, I mean, like you said, like you guys are saying, won't know until I take it off. But looking at it realistically, I'm probably looking at another head, and it probably means that I probably would need 2 heads, because if one head is messed up and warped or cracked with the overheating that it's been through, the other one's probably not that far behind. So if I'm going to repair this thing, I probably need to consider replacing both heads. And VW Fool Fly says a set of remand heads all set to go are $500. And that means valve job and springs and everything on there. Because it seems kind of low for a complete set. I mean, a head that is, or heads that are completely set up. Wow. Okay, that's not so bad then. Do they make any that are not prone to cracking? I guess that's just a design issue as far as the thickness of the head and so on and so forth. Well, you said reman, so I guess these would be the original, just remanufactured. No, it's not worth $500, but you have to look at it from the other aspect. If you own the vehicle and you can put $500 into it and drive it for another 4 or 5 years, is it worth that $500? If you don't have $2,000 or $3,000 to spend on a vehicle with potentially a whole nother set of problems, that's the thing that scares me about going and getting a vehicle that I don't know. The Cherokee doesn't. The Cherokee doesn't bother me as bad because I think I know enough about Cherokees that I can figure out if the Cherokee that I buy is good enough shape. And if it's not, or if something, because something's going to happen to it, they're older vehicles. And then if something does happen to it, I either have spare parts or I know what to expect. I know the cost, so on and so forth. The XJ that I'm looking at is $2,500. And it is not green. If it was green, I'd still buy it if it turned out to be a good vehicle. But just to keep things stirred up, I like that it's not green. It's the chili pepper red. Man, I don't want to give you too much information. You'll be over there buying it tomorrow. Renee is asking me how much, and of course I answered. And now he's saying from where? From a used car dealer. VW Full Y says all the heads are junk, even other models used in other cars. What do you mean? All the Fords? The Ford heads? Rini was censored. Bend over motors. The 3.8 V6. Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, it's been a really good vehicle. We got it like 7 years ago. It was used. It had, it was an older vehicle at the time because I guess it was, my gosh, what did we got it like 2002, 2003, 2004, something like that. And I haven't done anything to it. I haven't even changed the spark plugs in the silly thing. It's been doing fine. Now, I did notice recently, over the last maybe year, that it's had an issue with the water. And thinking back now with what I learned today, I'm sure it's had some sort of little head leak this whole time because I don't know where the water was going because it wasn't on the ground. I thought maybe it was a bad water pump or something, but there was no water underneath the front of the vehicle. There was no water anywhere. You just had to keep putting water in the thing every so often. So I think that it's had a crack or a blown head gasket, a small problem for over a year, and it's just gotten worse. Actually, it's probably gotten to the point where it overheated, and now it's really bad. So it was either a warp or a blown head gasket that went to a warp. Wow, that'd be cool if that's all you had to do to get into warp. I see we've had our friend from Mongolia show up. Order Dean. Hey, I think I got it. Let's see. VW Full Y says, let's think about what I'm doing here. Trying to get the exit music going. He says, if it was losing water for some time before and it started overheating, then it sounds like a crack that led to a blown head gasket. Yeah, it probably was. So hopefully I'll have a little little more to report. I'll take some pictures while I'm over there too, because I'm right now I'm planning on going over to the used car dealership after work tomorrow evening and having a look and driving the Cherokee, and if it works out, I'll put some money down on it to hold it, and hopefully that'll work out where we'll have a 1998 and a 1999 Jeep Cherokee. And I'll have to get some XJ Talk stickers to go on there too. I'm getting excited about this. And of course, it'll be nice to have something to work on that isn't a Mustang. Mustang's a beautiful car, and it's nice. It's really smooth and fun to drive, but I don't like things that I don't know, and I don't like learning about new things. Damn it, not when it comes to mechanical stuff. Anyway, guys, that's it for tonight. Thank you for listening to my bitching and moaning about the Mustang, and certainly all the information that you guys have been able to give me on the Mustang. It just confirms what I think the problem is, and revalidates the direction I need to go, which is basically get another vehicle. And like I said, it'll be fun to have another Cherokee in the family. Too many pluses. And double the storage space as far as going places, and it would be fun to get some of those detours, like that backbone and tailbone, or I guess technically Matt just has the tailbone right now, but I'm sorry, the backbone. Yeah, backbone and a tailbone kind of seem like the same thing to me. Anyway, the winch thing, it'd be pretty cool to get a tailbone at least to go on this one, but I can't talk about that too much because the wife will get a little nuts about the lift and all the rest of that stuff. She'll start freaking out on me. I gotta slide it in there slowly. You guys know how it is. So anyway, I'll take some pictures tomorrow and let you guys know on the site. And you folks that are listening to the show that haven't checked out xjtalk.com, please do. We have all kinds of fun things that we discuss, and special YouTube videos that we find and we put up called the random YouTube video thread, random picture thread. So there's lots of things to look and talk about. Current news. We even have a politics and religion section. Yes, we dare to go there. And I'll let you know ahead of time. A lot of the membership is conservative. So, but we don't berate or belittle the liberal Democrats. Well, not a lot. I mean, I guess to a certain degree, but it's good-natured ribbing, and the conservatives get ribbed too, because it's for her pleasure. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter, and every week 8 p.m. Central, we're right here on Ustream. Also available on iTunes, and you can catch the podcast, the past podcasts, whether it be on later Wednesday or Thursday at podcast.xjtalk.com. And I think we have 27 episodes now. So if you haven't heard the past ones, get on there and listen. We've got interviews with lots of people, great information that's been doled out, and you might have a little fun. Get in here with our chat room and interact with these folks that all got here late today. So, guys, till next week, have a very good, short week.
I just wanted to say XJ Talk is the best fucking site in the fucking world. And if you think you know of a better fucking site, fuck you. By the way, this is Big Jim 350. Bye.